What's up, people? Got another gun review for you here today. We're going to take a look at the Mini GS here. The Mini GS, the newest iteration of the Mini lineup, which has been out for a real long time, takes a lot of the same features out of the Axe and just puts them in kind of this smaller, less expensive platform. Mini GS is $300 right now, and yeah, it's kind of one of those first low budget electronic guns that I would start recommending to people. It's a solid platform. Let's just jump right into it. The barrel, I really like the milling on the GS barrel. It looks good. Well ported, good honing on the barrel. It's a one piece, so you're not necessarily going to go fill out a barrel kit, but it's going to work well for just about all your paint. I don't know the exact bore on this. I think it's probably around a 690. But yeah, that's going to work for all your paint. I think at this price point, you really shouldn't need to invest your money in more barrels. You really should be looking at what the next upgrade for a gun would be. So yeah, just use the stock barrel and yeah, it'll work well for you. On this gun, the ASA and regulator are kind of in a combo here at the bottom. Empire uses this on their Axe, the Axe Pro, even the high-end Vanquish. The design they go with, I'm not the biggest fan of the ASA regulator combo. This ASA is lever actuated. You see the lever down there at the bottom. One of the issues with this lever is you have to be able to access it from the back. And if you have a tank where the gauge is pointing down, or maybe the fill nipple is pointing down, it can just really be tough when it's screwed in to get to that lever. So I think there's just better designs there. As far as having the regulator in the ASA, it just kind of makes the thing big. Like when I hold these nice slim grips, I feel the ASA at the bottom of my hand there. It's definitely present. I just think the way guns are going is to make things more streamlined down there. A lot of guns are even making it so the front of the ASA sits flush with the grips. I just think it needs a bit of a redesign. It's big, it kind of stands out, and I don't want to really feel that as something that's odd while I'm shooting the gun. It is nice to have a gauge there. Empire likes to put gauges on the guns. Yeah, they pretty much have them on everything, and I like that you can see the operating pressure of your gun. So if you know that your gun typically runs at about 220 maybe to hit full velocity around 300, and then all of a sudden you look at your gauge and it's running 270 to be able to get that velocity, you know something somewhere is wrong. So you can start diagnosing problems. It's kind of a nice little feature to have. Obviously, ergonomically, this is a Mini, so you should expect it to be more cramped than most of our other guns. That's what it gets its name from. The trend for guns, for newer guns, is to space out that front grip from the back, and the Mini is in real tight. So one thing that I notice, and it's hard for me to show this, but when I hold that foregrip, my palm on the back side gets hit by my trigger fingers. And so something I do with this gun that I don't do with any other guns really is I end up wrapping my thumb over the top of the barrel with my front hand. So I just kind of adjust to it. I think the Mini is really, if you have smaller hands, you're going to like it. If you're just a smaller person in general, you have shorter arms, you probably will be okay with the feel. I think the average person is going to like a more stretched out gun more. And I think that's one of the reasons you might save up more money to look at something, like the Axe 2.0, which is just a little bit more stretched out, or the Etha 2, which is much more stretched out, and I think is a better feel. So this gun is, hits that $300 price point, and those you start talking about $400. The Axe 2.0 is $425, so you're looking at more money. But I think the feel of the gun is better, and that's one reason you'd think about spending more. One of the biggest downsides of this gun and the old Axe that they upgraded on the Axe 2.0 is how you access the eyes. So in order to get to the eyes, The frame has to be dropped off of this gun. You basically have to disassemble the whole thing to be able to access the eyes for cleaning. And yeah, that's a big downside. If you chop paint in your gun, a lot of times you need to clean the eyes for it to work properly. You know, for me, that's a pretty substantial issue. Another reason that I might look at something else, just because it's hard to get in those eyes. If your eyes start malfunctioning, you know, you run into more risk of chopping more paint as you're playing. So definitely a downside of the gun, that you can't service the eyes very well. The feed neck, I've been a big fan of the Empire feed neck. Doesn't have a wheel on the backside for adjusting, so you do have to you know, loosen your feed neck, use an Allen key to change that around. The trigger on this gun, you know, I haven't been the biggest fan of Empire triggers. This trigger is has a magnet on the back for the return. It does feel relatively snappy. It has a strong return to it. For some reason, I can't really tell you why, this trigger in particular, I can really rip on it. If you like to play simi and you like to go uncapped and see how fast you can shoot, this trigger may be for you, because compared to everything else I shoot, I can really jump on this trigger and the axe trigger. And can't necessarily tell you what causes me to be able to do that, but I can really shoot this thing fast. So what makes the Mini one of these guns that just has stood the test of time? It really is the bolt system. You know, the bolt system is super reliable, super simple, gives a good shot quality, and we're going to dive into that right now. I'm going to start taking this apart, and we'll kind of jump the camera forward. You do have to take this apart with an Allen key, so it's not toolless. It has a bolt right there in the bottom that essentially holds the drivetrain into the gun. So I'm going to take that off real quick, and we'll jump back into the video. And here's our bolt. So yeah, the Mini bolt, and this is essentially the same bolt that's been run on these guns, the axe also, for a very long time now. The system is an inline poppet, so what you're not, or what most people aren't quite used to, is having a poppet valve that's completely enclosed in the body of the gun. A lot of poppets are stacked tube, where obviously you have two tubes and the bolt on the top. So this is, the poppet goes all the way into the body and is enclosed. You don't have to worry about dirt getting in there. Yeah, so that's a little different for a lot of people. There aren't many guns that do that. One that comes to mind is the Bob Long Vis, which is also a very reliable platform. That's just, they're taking the reliability of the poppet and putting it enclosed in the body of the gun. It's an awesome concept, and it works very well. So really, here's what you have. You have the poppets that's encased in this back piece here. Got some O-rings to lube. Your bolt, very simple, goes on the top there. And then you have this spring that goes over the bolt. That's the whole system. So there's not much to go wrong. There's not much maintenance wise. You really just a couple O-rings on the bolt, a couple O-rings on the back here. And that is it. It's very, very easy to maintenance. The gun is very reliable. Being that it's a poppet, it just is very air efficient as well. So one of the things you might look at in these lower end guns, especially spool valves, up until you hit that ETHA 2 mark, you really don't start getting very great efficiency out of spool valves, but you're definitely out of something like the Mini GS going to get real good efficiency. Shot quality wise, is it as smooth as the spool valves? I don't think so. It's going to have a little bit more kick than those guns. So one that competes directly with the Mini GS is the Proto Rise, and now the Rise Max hits that $300 price point. That's going to be the smoother of those two guns, but I would say for sure this poppet style bolt is going to be more reliable. So those are kind of the two guns that people compare. Which one would you prefer is really what you like. Do you like a smoother gun, or do you like a more reliable gun? And that's not to say the Mini GS isn't smooth, because it shoots well. It's, you know, not as quiet as other guns, but relatively quiet. It's just a good all-around performer, and that's why it's kind of stood the test of time. There are a lot of aftermarket bolts made for this that are built to reduce the pressure of the gun, so they could potentially smooth this out if you want to try and go that route. So my final thoughts on the Mini GS. Is it good? Absolutely. I think the Mini GS, like I said, along with the Proto Rise, they're kind of the first electronic guns that I'm going to start recommending to people. This price point, around that $300. The Proto Rise is the standard Rise is $225. That's really the cheapest electronic gun that I'm going to recommend to people. Mini GS is very good. Now what you need to think about is that for $100 more on this, you could have something like the Etha 2, and I personally prefer the Etha 2 much more. You get a completely wireless frame in that gun. The eyes are easier to service for cleaning. It has all kinds of new features. It has a pop style ASA. The gun's just going to shoot smoother. It's very efficient. And even the Axe 2.0 just kind of has updates on this. And then you're looking for that gun $125 more. Once again, it doesn't mean the Mini GS is bad. I think it's a great platform. If you have $300 to spend, this will serve you very well. You just kind of have to think about where your money's going, when you might potentially be able to upgrade in the future. You know, if you have the potential to spend a little bit more, I think you can get a lot more for that extra $100. So Mini GS, yes, solid, reliable platform, good shooter, a little cramped ergonomically, and you're definitely going to feel that. So probably the #1 reason I would say, you know, at least hold this gun, get a feel for it, see if you're going to be comfortable shooting it before you buy. And there you go, Mini GS. Let me know what you think about these. People are shooting the Minis and the Axes like crazy. They've been shooting them forever. I know people that swear by them. Yeah, they really are that good. So yeah, let me know what you think. Comment below. If you have any questions, let me know. Subscribe to the channel, please. That's a big help for me. And we'll hit you with another review. I've got another Empire review coming up real soon here. So, see you then.